So Mike Haas disputes your account of a meeting with him and Brian Bell, which you said it's not going to work, guys.
They were separate meetings.
He said you never told him he was interim. It's not going to work out.
Well, that's not true. I did. As a matter of fact, I told him to stop making the rounds in the senators' offices because it wasn't going to make any difference. He really was perplexed by the idea that he wasn't going to be confirmed. I mean, he was really like, "You're kidding me." You know, why? And I said, because of the John Doe investigation. I said, Mike, it was like immediate. As soon as you were selected, the phone calls that I got, not only from other senators, but from, people that move in Republican circles. So I told him that in the office. I said, you're not going to get confirmed.
Bell says that he never remembers our meeting, so there was no meeting alone with the two of them. But Bell
No, they came in individually.
Yeah, Bell says that he heard from your staff that there were concerns about Haas in his conversation, but not about his. So
from my staff, I don't know what my staff had said.
Did you tell Brian Bell that he wasn't? That he was not
absolutely. I said, Brian, you're never going to get confirmed.
He said that you didn't tell him that.
That is not true. It's not true. Same thing. Why I told him it's not going to make any difference if you visit with all the senators in their offices because I can tell you I'm never going to be able to schedule for the floor.
On the floor, you said it was 14 months ago.
I would never get it to the floor.
So. On the floor, it says 14 months ago you met with these guys. So is this a different meeting from 14 months ago?
No, that was it. That was the initial meeting that they requested after they were selected by the commission.
Scott, what would you think if the commissions reappointed them as interim directors?
I would hope that the board would deadlock in respect to what the Senate's vote was, which would mean they could not appoint him. And then after that, I'm not sure what it would mean if, in fact, they did reappoint him as interim. I'm not sure what that would mean. Now, the only thing I can confirm is that DOA has actually terminated them as state employees as of this afternoon. So they would, how that all logistically would look if they kind of brought them back into the system, I don't know. But
Mike Haas says he's showing up for work tomorrow. Would the Senate consider legal action or something before?
I don't think he's on the payroll anymore, and I think his computer has been shut down. His access to his state computer has been shut down, which probably should have happened 3 weeks ago with the way he's been using it. So, yeah.
Why is that? Because of the tweets? Or?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And actually, the one that was coming out of the actual elections board, a retweet of his wife last night. I mean, that stuff is outrageous and
what do you think of the president's
unacceptable.
Tweets?
So, I'm not going to comment on the president's tweet. Yeah, they do. He does.
The president does?
Yeah, sure.
Like what?
Yeah.
Shithole countries? Is that a bad comment?
Anybody else?
Scott, have you talked to any of the Republican appointees on the commissions about how they would vote about naming them as interim directors?
No, not on that topic, but I've been talking to Katie McCallum all along and Jody Jensen, my appointees. Yeah.
We keep talking about John Doe. Brian Bell was not involved in that investigation. Why does that mean? Why does the John Doe investigation mean that Brian Bell has to go as the ethics commissioner?
I guess it depends on how you view his involvement. If you believe that the time in excess of 2 years that he was there working and whether or not he had a feel for what was going on within that agency. I believe he did know what was going on and he was complicit. I think he underscored that again this week by first telling the Ethics Commission members, which I watched on Wisconsin Eye. Nice job. They basically asked the question that I think all of us were wondering was, what was your involvement? And he basically said, I had no involvement at all. Then he responds to Tiffany's questions, and he lays out this whole slew of reasons as to why he was uncomfortable working there during that time and why he left. So if there's anybody that's kind of been back and forth, I think it's been Brian on what he did and what he was doing while he was there at the GAB.
So it sounds like you're saying you're not convinced that he wasn't involved with John Doe.
No, absolutely not. I think he was involved. I think he was complicit. I've told members of the board that.
When you say complicit, what do you mean? I mean, in what capacity?
I think it's really hard for him to have two separate positions within the GAB. First, probably more of a data specialist, and then secondly, moves over to an ethics slot, which I think is an odd move in the first place. I'm not sure how that came about. But the idea that somebody was there working in that agency for over 2 years and had no idea what was going on there, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I don't believe it based on what's been somewhat verified by DOJ already, which, like I said on the floor, I think that will be carried out, that second half of this investigation, I think will be carried out on items that they probably saw in the initial scope of what Voss asked for.
You still on the floor. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. How do you know that DOA cut him off the payroll and cut off his computer? Did they tell you that?
Yeah, they just contacted us today. Yeah.
You sat on the floor like, unless the entire staffs were cleared out from the old GAB, you will not trust the commissions. How do you accomplish that and have them run elections and ethics for the next 10 months for an election? I mean, is that what you want?
No,
the entire place cleared out?
No, I think, I kept referring to that circle of 7 people that DOJ keeps referring to and the way they function and operated at the GAB. I mean, I think it's going to be hard if you don't figure a way, and there's a lot of different angles on how that would go, if you don't make sure that those people still aren't employed there. I think I'll never have any confidence in either one of those agencies until that's cleaned up.
That's Judnick, Berger. I mean, you can't fire those people because they have certain protections. So what's the alternative then?
You could reclassify the positions.
Is that part of what you guys will consider doing before you guys break in March?
Well, they made a 1310 request for January 30th in the Finance Committee. That opens the door. Those 3 positions that they requested opens the door to I think the majority is reexamining exactly what those positions look like. I would hope that when elections and ethics, when the boards convene again and they work through a list of possible new candidates, hopefully they'll do some type of nationwide search and be cognizant of the idea that if you have somebody that worked at the GAB before, it's probably not a good person to put in that slot. If they're able to require that individual to actually have a law degree, I don't know that you necessarily need just the legal counsel position then.
When you talked to the floor about a conspiracy, about people at the agency putting their thumb on the scale of the elections and trying to force Republicans from power.
Yeah, I didn't get into it.
But you believe that the GAB staff actively sought to tilt elections against Republicans in 11 and 12 in recalls?
I do.
Based on what?
On all the evidence that I either lived through as somebody that was at the committee to elect Republicans. DOJ said in my office, in their briefing related to the report, they are absolutely convinced that John Doe 3, which is not formal, I get, but a spinoff of 2, the target was a committee to elect Republican Senate, and the senators either that were recalled, the staff that was involved in those, and they were looking for some type of linkage between staffers that were doing politics on state time. So if you look at all of the, and I can list the examples of election dates and everything that we lived through during the recalls, I don't think there's any doubt. And then I'm hesitant to say his name, but the legal counsel over there certainly was working overtly to make sure that things broke towards Democrats winning recalls. There's no doubt in my mind that actually was going on. Not only the stuff that I lived through and experienced, but now DOJ confirming back to me, we found this, and this, and we need to go further to kind of wrap this thing up. So
I want to be clear about this 1310. Do you think you can reclassify the positions of Judnick and Borger so that they don't have jobs anymore, potentially?
Well, the first question is as to whether or not they can be bumped. And DOA believes that Brian Bell can go back to a position at Dispus. Okay. And then there was a question as to whether or not Haas could bump Judnick or could bump Berger. I think we landed, or DOA landed on Judnick. Okay. So I don't know if he'll do that. Who knows? No idea. But then you could, through the opening within the 1310, re-examine those 2 legal counsel positions that exist in both ethics and elections and see if they're necessary. And if you can reclassify those, then I think what you're trying to figure out is responding to the question of, well, who's going to be legal counsel for both of those boards? Well, maybe they'll hire somebody that has a law degree, is what you're hoping.
But if nobody's bumped, can the Joint Finance Committee reclassify those positions to remove those people?
We believe we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that?
I think we have to do that.
Okay.
Yep. And I would say it might even be, I don't think it's necessarily, it's not just about getting those individuals out of there. It also could be, it's probably not necessary to have those positions there.
There's lots of other people at the GAB or at the commissions who previously worked there, from secretaries to administrative officers, budget officers. Do you want to see a complete wipeout of anybody who worked for the GAB, or are you just targeting those two guys?
Well, no, I think, what it's pretty clear what the majority is uncomfortable with right now, and that is people that were there during the Government Accountability Board years. Now, some of them have already left. So, I think it would be incremental. You'd have to make those decisions as you see how things kind of shake out. So.
What would you say to somebody who says that's too much like a purge? That it's, if you're saying that serves as a target of an investigation, then your party comes in and sort of systematically goes through and gets rid of civil servants. If they called that political retribution, what would you say to that?
I wish they'd all resign. That would have been the easiest. Instead of going through what we went through here today, I think, it's going to be hard to ever, and I've told the board members this that I've spoken to, it's just hard to develop any type of cooperative relationship or, establish any credibility as long as some of those people are over there.
But are you trying to manage the managers or regulate the regulators by doing this? Or trying
I
tilt
get
the scale back in your favor?
Yeah, I get the criticism, and I understand the perception, and I think, some of the minority members tried to make that case today. No, I think what we're trying to do is get to a place, which was my most effective argument with each and every member that I spoke with over the last couple of weeks, is you watch the service agencies function in a way that is completely nonpartisan. It's not about the person, it's about the way they carry themselves and the way they handle themselves. And the way they've probably trained, they've been trained to carry themselves. Bob Lang and Terry Anderson and all these guys at the service agencies, that is the example. It's the example. It's right there. And that's the way that these guys should operate. Otherwise, you're going to have legislators that continue to say, I don't trust anybody over there. I'm afraid to give them sensitive information. It's really hampering the way elections and ethics works in Wisconsin, and that has to be fixed.
So you bring up Fiscal Bureau, that agency exists to serve lawmakers. Ethics Commission exists in part in an oversight capacity to oversee things like campaign finance. Does that analogy really hold, in that you have one agency that exists to serve lawmakers and another that exists in part to oversee them?
Yeah, Ruth Judd, that was there previously as the ethics commissioner, I believe his title was, who, when I first got elected, if you had an issue related to ethics, you would work with Roth. He was very, very forthright. He would tell you, here's a place you don't want to go. This is where you want to be. It existed. It was there. Elections might have been a little bit different than, I'm a little fuzzy. I didn't interact with elections a lot initially, but everyone that I've talked to who's been around here for a while knew that Roth Judd was one of those professionals that met that standard. And I think that can be brought back, and I think it should be brought back. So the stuff that Haas was doing this week, I can't imagine a guy like Bob Lane doing something like that. He's not going to do it. It's just crazy.
You said if they tried to rehire Bell or Haas, you'd hope that there'd be a deadlock and they wouldn't get hired. But if they were able to get 4 votes and rehired them, would you just go through this exercise again, or what? What would your reaction be if
I don't know. Without knowing kind of what territory you're in, and without having some legal advice as to what the next move would be, I think it would be difficult for me to answer that right now.
What do you think about the agreement that the commission reached with Feeler's firm to pay him $350 an hour to do this investigation? Is that appropriate use of taxpayer money? And what the conclusion that it came to? Did you read the report that came out last night? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, on the cost of it, I guess that wasn't the point. The reason I did the open records request is because I wanted to know kind of what the scope of it was and how it was what they were expecting to get out of that, I guess. So I guess I'm not surprised that, the attorneys
Were you satisfied with the answers
paid
you got? Looking at
significantly.
those records?
No, I thought it was a joke. The whole thing was ridiculous. Yeah.
Mark Thompson from the Elections Commission has said he doesn't think this vote would mean anything, that only the commission can remove Haas. If the entire commission or a majority of the commission takes that position, would you sue them, or what would you do if they just say your vote is meaningless?
That is a better question for the minority. Senator Schilling needs to be asked that question, because Senate confirmation either means something, and it should mean something from an institutional perspective, and if it doesn't, if it's used in a partisan way, again, we're in a whole new place that I've never been before, and I'm not sure where that goes.
Are you upset with the Republican commissioners for continuing to support these?
No, I mean, I've had ongoing conversations with my appointees, and I think, I don't know if I made the point effectively today. I would say there were similarities in Katie McCallum and Jody Jensen, in my discussions with them, in that they basically were saying, listen, Katie's not an attorney, but Jody is, and she's like, listen, they're getting all their information from legal counsel that's in the room. They're typically the only ones in the room. And, when it's Judnick in elections, I'm not sure what he's counseling them on, but that's got to be a pretty limited scope, I would say, in what he's going to legally, how he's going to answer those questions legally. And I think the same thing is going on with Berger over in ethics. And actually, when I talked to one of the other commissioners, not my appointee, he was unaware that Berger was even involved in John Doe at all, which, that was surprising to me.
Are you saying Jennifer should direct her appointees to not rehire these guys?
No, not at all. I'm saying it's a bigger question if the confirmation process doesn't mean anything, which is, I think, what you were suggesting, right? That you just blow through it.
What I'm saying is that you can't remove them with a denial of their confirmation. And I guess I hear your point about that Schilling should answer for that, but if the commission takes that position, are you going to have to sue them?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you right now on that. I'm not sure. That sounds like the next step. Okay, thank you. Yep.
Thanks. Hey, have you said anything about Senate 10? Senate District 10? What? Senate District 10, the special election.
Oh.
Just wondering what you think that means.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick analysis of kind of the data and what we worked through. We're going to talk about it. We've got a caucus tomorrow, political caucus outside the Capitol, and we're going to run through the numbers again. Obviously, the turnout is something that, it's very low turnout, obviously because of the time of the year. Once again, I still feel like the right guy did not come through the primary, and that is not a reflection on Adam Jarkle personally. I just think Jarkle was from the northern part of the district. I believe all the growth over the last 8 years since the last census is in the southern part of the district, and it could have made a difference. Now, if Shannon makes it through instead of Adam, I don't know that it was enough to swing that election, but I think it would have had an impact on the election.
We have some Republicans saying this means the Senate majority could be in play in the fall.
I feel good about the incumbent. I mean, the difference between the Assembly and the Senate is obviously we've got a number of senators that aren't up for re-election. And that's, that always, you have to start from there and then work back as to who's up and in those odd-numbered districts, and how effective are they in communicating the message back at home.
So do you think a Republican majority is in play? I mean, is this outcome this big of a deal? Is it this big of an indicator of where the political
I expect to come back in the majority, absolutely. But, we got to work hard and get our message out there. So.
Do you want Andre Jacques to be your nominee in the first district, or are you looking for somebody else?
It's not what I want. It's kind of what the district wants, and I know there's a lot of discussion with other candidates that, are potentially taking a look at it. So I guess we'll kind of see how that plays out with candidate recruitment. So.
When you say it's not what I want, you mean he's not the candidate you want, or it's not a matter of what you personally want, it's a matter of what the voters in the district want?
I think there'll be a primary. There'll be a Republican primary based on what I'm hearing is going on in the first Senate seat, that there'll probably be a primary there. So.
Do you have a preference as to if Andre Jacques is the winner of that primary?
No, because I don't know who the other candidates are going to be. Yeah, you want the candidate that's going to be best positioned to win that general election. That's for sure. So, okay, thank you.
Thanks.